I'm going to be talking about a couple of areas. First is flood forecasting. When you're looking at sizing a culvert or a bridge, you need to know how much water is going to go through there. We set that by a basic risk. We design all highway crossings for a 2% annual risk of exceedance. But those are based on rainfall intensity curves and charts from 1955 and 1961. We're skating to where the puck was 60 years ago. If you just blindly follow that procedure. Now, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration is working on a new set of curves and new sets of charts. They should be out within a couple of years, but they will still not include future trends. So that will bring them up to date as of now, but not for the future. And as Elizabeth mentioned, we're looking culverts and bridges, we're looking 75 to 100 years out. So what can we do about it? Next. Well, those of you who deal with this sort of thing, you know, for small watersheds, little drainage areas, you're using a rational method. Somewhat larger ones, you're using SCS curve methods, TR55. Those both make the discharge proportionate to a rainfall intensity. We know those rainfall intensities are projected to increase by 10 to 15% by the end of the century. Boom. There's a way that you can adapt that. You simply take your calculated discharges that you're going to size the culvert to, increase it by 10 to 15%. Next. For slightly larger watersheds, I don't know how many people use the USGS Stream Stats program. The URL is here for it. That will tell you the drainage basin size, and if you tell it to compute all the different factors, it will do wonderful things, and it's very quick, and it will give you your discharges for different return intervals, and it will do even neater things, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's a much more difficult method to theoretically adapt for future changes. But by analogy to the small watershed methods, you can simply say, I'm going to bump that up by 10 to 15%. Or, next, what Delaware County does, and this is Wayne Reynolds that Bill Farabee mentioned earlier. What they do, Stream Stats will give you a statistical confidence interval about their predicted value. Delaware County says, we're just going to take the top of that interval, which means basically increasing the probable flows by 25% or thereabouts. And that's what they're designing for. When Wayne gives his presentations, he likes to introduce himself as saying that he's the commissioner of the DPW at Delaware County, where they've had 3 500-year floods in the last 10 years. He's got a lot of experience with this. The other area I want to talk about is post-flood response. We've all been doing a lot of that. Some of us have been getting in trouble for what we've been doing. A lot of the guidance that's out there, some of the stuff that even the DEC has put out, simple little 2-page guidance, doesn't distinguish really between emergency response and the post-flood restoration or reconstruction. I would like to emphasize, when you're in an emergency situation where you've got a bridge that's impassable, you've got people cut off on the other side, you have folks with no water, you have no access to medical attention, to emergency services, then you do whatever you feel like you need. The little guidebook says, keep the equipment out of the stream. No, if somebody's grandmother is on the other side of that bridge, the bulldozer goes in the stream. I'm sorry, we'll go back, we'll fix it later. In terms of the restoration and reconstruction, that's what you have time to actually plan and think about. But There are things that you can do in your emergency response that will minimize having to go back and fix it as part of your reconstruction and restoration phase. Next. This is something that the DEC is looking at making available statewide as guidance. This is the Delaware County training manual. There's the URL. I think it's about a 70-page manual. It's well worth reading through to get an idea beforehand, because this is all about planning in advance. This is all about thinking what you're going to have to do. The only problem with the manual is that it's for Delaware County. They have wonderful charts in there for the west branch of the Delaware River watershed, the east branch of the Delaware, the Susquehanna, that don't immediately apply to you. But the principles are there, and I'll show you where you can look for specific things for this area. Next. A few caveats. You'll see a lot of places that say, don't ever dredge. You will make the problem worse. There's a difference between dredging and sediment removal. If you've got a bridge or a culvert with a great big gravel bar that was deposited by that last flood, you can and should go in and remove the sediment to open that back up. Even in an open stream channel, you may need to remove sediment back to the original level that the stream was at, just to get it out of the way, to clear the water course and prevent worse future flooding. That's different than dredging, which would be lowering the stream bed. Large woody debris. The fisheries people love this. Fish love it. Bridges hate it. Culverts hate it. If you want to put large woody debris into the stream, please do it downstream of the culvert so it doesn't flood. A lot of these things will tell you you're going to look for a stable reference reach. When you're restoring a stream, you try to make it look like the reference reach. In a flood-damaged stream, there may be no stable reference reach. You may have a lot of trouble with this. There are workarounds to that you can do by formulas and by what they call regional curves for channel design. These are available, and I'll show you where they are. In-stream structures. Lots of people want to go out there, put in rock veins, cross veins, river steering things. Approach those with extreme caution. They can get you in a lot of trouble if they're not done right. And they have a high failure rate. Next. This is a USGS publication. This is where you can find a lot of the information for your specific region comparable to what's in that Delaware County Stream Restoration Manual. Also, that Stream Stats program that I mentioned earlier from the USGS, it will actually print out your bank full width, your bank full depth. So when you're opening up a channel, that'll tell you how much you should open it up. You don't want to make it too much because that'll cause more trouble. You don't want to make it too little. That'll make more trouble. If you get it right the first time, you don't have to go back and fix it. The same thing with sizing culverts. Corey mentioned earlier, larger culverts are a win-win. I would say win-win watch, because if you make the culvert too big, you will create more problems. So don't just say, well, it has to be bigger. You don't want it too much bigger. Next. If you need assistance, your County Soil and Water Conservation District office, if they don't have someone who is experienced at stream restoration, they can steer you to someone who does. Likewise, the DEC regional office. DOT, you can call the regional office. You can call Ed. Everybody calls Ed. And again, if he doesn't have the answer, and he frequently does, he can steer you to somebody who does. We're always willing to help the municipalities, at least down on the worker bee level where I am. I know it can be frustrating working with the official policymakers. If you call, usually if you call the region or if you call someone like Ed, he'll probably send you to somebody like me, and I can help you without worrying about whether it's policy. And I think that's it.
The next slide.